Those out there, by the way.
There are, and the episodes are still going to be probably pretty close or normal-ish. You know, they're not going to be the 2-hour epics, but...
We'll pad them out as much as we can.
But at the same time, what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to recoup a little bit and at the same time start working on some of the bigger stories that we've been wanting to do, but just haven't had the time.
Yeah.
Or just been too lazy.
Yeah, well, it's like, I know you're working on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I have been literally since we started.
And Joe, you're working on that other one.
I am.
And I've got that thing I'm looking into, so tons of time.
Don't worry, we got it.
Yep, when I'm done sunbathing, I will look into that thing.
Yeah, when my tan is perfect.
So is mine. My other one, I've been working on that for like 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Off and on, not constantly.
Yeah. Well, now you get a chance. So, we're going to go ahead and do that, so now you know what's going on.
Summer series, woohoo!
Summer series. So on to today's mystery, which was suggested by Kane. Today we're gonna, so let's go ahead and get back to the mystery, or get into the mystery, I should say. Today we're gonna be talking about the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter, which is a purported extraterrestrial encounter, or an ET encounter.
When did it happen?
It took place in 1955, specifically on August 21st of 1955. And I haven't done one of these stories for a while, so for anybody who doesn't remember, I always like to give you the fullest version or the most inflated version because that's what you're going to find out there on the internet.
Yeah.
90% of the time, yeah.
And then we'll roll back and we'll clear up some details before we get into theories. Our story takes place, as I said, on the 21st of August, 1955. It was in the evening, and it took place between the towns of Kelly and Hopkinsville. I'm gonna butcher that every time if I'm not careful. Hopkinsville, which are located in the southwestern portion of Kentucky. And really, Hopkinsville is the town. Kelly is really just kind of a small residential area.
It's an unincorporated.
Yeah.
Wide spot in the road.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And our story is going to take place in a rented home. It is the home of Glennie Langford.
And I would not want to rent to these people.
Why?
Oh, you'll find out.
Okay. So Glennie Langford, on the night in question, had her entire family over for dinner. She had her 3 young children, which were Lonnie, Charlton, and Mary.
Charlton.
It's the 1950s.
I know, I'm sorry.
You were expecting the character from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
That's
that Charlton?
Carlton.
Okay. I'm just going to let it go. You see what happens when we do fun stories? We get weird right away.
I don't know, you guys do anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so those 3 were younger children. I think the oldest was 13, if I remember right. She had 2 older sons who were from a prior marriage. One of those sons was Elmer Lucky Sutton and his wife Vera. And then the other older son was J.C. Sutton and his wife Aileen. Aileen's brother was also there. His name is O.P. Baker. And last but not least, they had a family friend over by the name of Billy Ray Taylor, and Billy Ray's wife June was also there.
Boy, that's a lot of people.
Yes.
11.
Was it a big
families.
house?
I don't know. It does not look to be a small place.
Okay.
So I'm sure that it wasn't as if they were all crammed into one teeny room to try and eat dinner. But that's where they were. They were over to have dinner that night, apparently. So according to the legend or the story, however you want to say it, the Taylors, so that's Billy Ray and June, along with Lucky and his wife Vera, were all traveling carnival workers. So yes, we have aliens and carnies all in one story.
It's just like American Horror Story all over again.
It is.
It's perfect. So they were just like carnival workers. They worked the rides and stuff, right? They weren't like sideshow or anything like that.
No, they were not sideshow attractions themselves. I believe they were just plain workers.
Okay.
What exactly they did, I've never been able to locate.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't care.
Yeah,
They're probably dead by now anyway.
So, according to the story, 7 o'clock at night, Billy Ray went to the well to get some water because the house didn't have indoor plumbing. And he reported that he saw a flashing light in the sky and that it was a flying saucer, and it landed ahead of him just past the tree line. He immediately booked it back to the house to tell everybody what he had seen. And this is where the accountings will split depending on the version you have. Either an hour after he saw this, he convinced Lucky to go with him to investigate the craft, or sometime not too long after he got back to the house, the dog started barking and going nuts. Whichever case it is, Lucky and Billy Ray walked out of the house. Of course, being good red-blooded Americans, they had guns.
Of course. What kind of guns?
One of them had a shotgun, and the other one had a .22 caliber rifle.
Yeah.
That's not nearly adequate enough for dealing with aliens.
Well, I don't know that they knew what they were getting into ahead of time.
Oh, yeah.
It really doesn't matter whether it was the hour later they went to investigate or the dog was barking, because in both, this is where the versions merge back together. As soon as they walked out into the front yard, they saw ahead of them a creature on the ground walking towards them. I'm going to give this description in plurals just because there's supposed to be multiples of them, but supposedly this creature had its hands raised. It was about 3 to 4 feet tall, had clawed hands, was green, had short, thin arms, large yellow eyes, large pointed or batwing-shaped ears, depending on the version that you come across, and a long, thin mouth. Being the brave men that they were, they immediately both shot at the creature.
Duh.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
If they managed to hit it, they apparently didn't do any damage because it jumped in the air, did a backflip, and then ran into the woods. I suddenly realized that these aliens might have wanted to be in the carnival.
Maybe that's all they wanted. They just wanted to be
They
performers in
wanted
the
their
carnival.
shot.
Man.
Well, they got their shot.
Wow.
Yeah, so after both of them have shot at the creature and it's run away, they of course do the same and they run back.
Backflip.
Yeah, done its backflip and ran into the woods.
Yeah.
They of course turn around and run back into the house.
Did they do backflips too, or no?
No. They just ran. But they of course then shut the door, the screen door, I think.
That's got to do a lot of good.
It really does, because here's the funny thing, is that moments later, the creature popped its head up in one of the windows that of the house, and of course it had a scary face, and everybody freaked out, and so again, both men began to shoot at it through the screen window.
Man, you ever touch up a gun indoors?
Yeah.
It's extremely loud.
It is very loud.
Particularly guns like that.
Yeah.
Well, the shotgun primarily. The .22 wouldn't be too bad, but the shotgun would be really loud.
It
Yeah.
would be.
And do a crap load of damage to the windows.
Into your ears.
True. So, of course, they take their shot at it. The creature disappears from the window. They're pretty sure they got it. They run outside to see the body, at which point they discover there's nothing there. They apparently must not have hit it. While they're outside, I guess they were kind of under the eave of the house, and as one of them stepped out from under the eave, the creature reached its clawed hand down and tried to grab their hair, which of course scared the crap out of them.
I can hear the soundtrack to this, right?
Don't.
Where it's just like fever pitch of like,
Yeah.
So now, for a third time,
They
these
shoot.
guys open fire,
Of course.
and apparently one of them must have hit it this time because it fell from the roof.
did it?
Actually, no, it floated down from the roof, and as soon as it touched the ground, it ran away into the woods again.
Doing backflips the entire time, I'm sure.
No backflips this time.
Dang it.
Only that one time.
Ah.
So
You think the alien would figure out he's not really welcome?
these humans, they do the strangest greetings. I don't understand it.
Yeah, right?
So at this point, of course, Lucky and Billy Ray, they immediately run back in the house again and shut the door. And for several hours after the fact, the creatures kept popping their heads up in the windows or the doorway, and the men kept shooting at them, which apparently would continue to have no effect.
Yeah, and apparently I read somewhere there were like, 15 or 20 of these things?
There's reportedly there were up somewhere between 15 and 20, yes.
Yeah.
all over the house. So basically this house is surrounded by these things. It really sounds to me like it's extraterrestrial whack-a-mole at this point.
Yeah.
And they're popping up in the windows and then
they
disappearing.
shoot every time they see one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a weird version of Duck Hunt.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
Nintendo
quit
game.
it. Like, get out of here. Stop it. They're like swatting at flies. Like,
Yeah,
you're annoying
exactly.
me.
Yeah.
So eventually, everybody, all 11 people in the house, they've had it. They've had enough. They can't take anymore. They all bolt for the door, and they all run to the cars. They pile into 2 cars, and they drive to the police station in Hopkinsville. Understandably, the police are a little tentative and suspicious of their story. They're a little skeptical of what all these people are claiming. And from the reading I've done, there was a couple of factors that eventually got them to go along, or at least possibly believe him. And part of that was the fact that everybody appeared to be sober. Wasn't as if anybody was sauce drunk. There was also, there's the other thing, which is the police were worried about civilians having a gun battle in the middle of a semi-residential area.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
So, of course, they went ahead and they agreed to go investigate. So the police go to the property.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of people who go to the property that night to quote-unquote investigate this situation. There's 4 local police officers, 5 state troopers, 3 deputy sheriffs, and 4 military police from Fort Campbell.
You gotta imagine that there's not a whole lot going on in that area of Kentucky. Kentucky?
Yeah, it's probably like a big happening.
And I think if somebody's like, no, but really, there's aliens, you'd be like, well, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Jim, are you going?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
The thing to remember, though, is that flying saucers had just started to become popular, and most people regarded them as fake, as just this silly thing. So I find it very hard to imagine that there'd be any other reason that the cops and all these guys
Just for fun.
would have gone, like, we got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
It sounds like the military officers, military police were called in because of the fact that there was all this gunfighting going on.
Yeah, I can
And they were
imagine.
worried about needing support.
Uh-huh.
At least that's what the reading says.
Fair enough.
So they go there, and everybody gets to the property, and evidently in the time between when the family left and got to the sheriff's office and then came back, the ETs had beat feet. They had completely disappeared. They looked around. There were no signs of the aliens, or the only thing that there was signs of was bullet holes in the walls and in the screens.
Good marksmanship, by the way, guys.
Yeah, that's why you use a shotgun, because you don't have to aim.
Well, they didn't hit any of the 11 people that were in the house, so
That's
that's
good, yeah.
pretty good.
It
It could have been way worse.
It makes me think of one of those 1970s or 80s comedy sitcom situations where the guy with the gun is pointing it forward, and he shuffles to his left, and everybody else is grouped behind him,
And
so they're
shuffles,
moving
yeah.
like a dial so that they're out of his range.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I have to imagine was going on.
Probably.
I think the kids were hiding under a bed, weren't they?
Yeah. They had put the 3 youngest ones underneath the bed for, obviously good reason.
Yeah.
That'll stop a bullet.
Well, it's mostly to keep them low to the ground, Joe.
Yeah.
So, of course, like I said, they search the place. They can't find anything. There is a green glow reported on near a fence, and it's said that was where one of the creatures was hit by a bullet.
Glowing green blood.
It was that, or some people in some things it'll say that might be where the craft was at. I will mention that when shot, these creatures, it made a metallic sound, almost like shooting another piece of metal. That ping, that iconic bullet ping. That's what the sound apparently made. Other than that, they couldn't find anything, so they left at about 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody said, "Sorry, guys, we don't see anything," and they left.
Yeah.
And everybody settled down for the night and tried to go to bed until about 3:30 in the morning, when the ETs returned and began their antics of scratching all the walls and walking on the ceiling and popping their ugly little heads.
Roof maybe, not ceiling.
Oh yeah, on the roof. Thank you. And popping their little heads up in the windows. And this continued on until dawn the next morning. So the morning of the 22nd, it eventually stopped. The authorities did come back that morning to the property. They wanted to investigate, and mostly what they were going to do was they interviewed everybody. And as police would tend to do, they interview you separately from the bunch. The one thing about this is that everybody's story was almost 100% consistent. They matched up. It wasn't as if there was any wild, variances between them.
I feel like that's almost more suspicious.
Yeah, it is.
It's more like, all right, what are we going to tell the police? Than it is.
Like, I think
this is my recollection of it, and it's probably slightly different than all the other people's recollection of it.
But I think the cops, they would have smelled BS if everybody's story had synced up perfectly.
That's true. Yeah,
they would have. And so they probably didn't.
They're similar enough that
Yeah.
it's not like they're wildly different. Which witness statements can easily be. He was wearing a red shirt. I think he was wearing a blue shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That guy had a white shirt on. That happens. But it doesn't appear that was the case here. A couple of the people were asked to draw the creatures. Can you give me a little rendering of it? And they all were relatively similar. They had differences, but they weren't strikingly huge differences. And that's it. The ETs, these little creatures, they never came back. They never came back to bother these people, and they were never heard from again.
Were there footprints and stuff around?
Nope.
Okay.
No little alien Doc Martin prints.
Okay.
Anything like that.
No burn marks on the ground where their saucer took off?
No burn marks on the ground where their saucer took off. So let's do this now. As I'm wont to do, I just told you the most inflated, fantastic version. Now let's clear up a few facts.
Yeah.
Because if some people have been able to get a hold of all of the newspapers from the time in the area and other records, and there's a lot of things that aren't quite right in these inflated versions. So, to start with, some of the stories say that the creatures themselves glowed whitish and that they glowed a brighter white when they were shot. And that appears to have been something that was inserted to the story after the fact. There's a couple of insertions that happen as the story spreads and people are rewriting the account.
Shocking.
Yes.
That never happened.
I know. We also said that the creatures were green. That was actually inserted after the fact. They actually were described as kind of a silver grayish color. So not little green men.
Okay.
As we talked about before, there's reportedly between 15 to 20 little guys running around. According to the statements, actually only at one point was more than one of them seen, and that was when one was in front of the door and another one was in a tree farther away. Other than that, they were always seen one at a time with no others around. So the number, again, seems to be an addition. The story says that Billy Ray and Lucky were basically dumping boxes of ammunition into the walls of this house.
Yeah, the brass was about 6 inches deep. Can the cops arrive there?
Well, actually, it turns out that's not the case.
It's not?
There was only a single hole in a single screen of a window, and that was consistent with about the size of a .22 caliber bullet.
But there was just the one hole.
But that was just the one hole, so it wasn't as if they were just shooting like mad. You'll see it said that the Air Force came out. Well, actually, the men that came out were from the Army. The Air Force does mention this event in their documents on Project Blue Book.
They don't say anything about it, though.
Well, they say a little bit about it, but everything they say about it is completely and totally dismissive. The Air Force doesn't take it in any way, shape, or form to be something valid to investigate or to even consider. There's the UFO, the one that Billy Ray said he saw. Turns out there were meteor showers at the time in the area.
Okay.
The Kappa Cygnids is a annual meteor shower that happens around the same time of year every year.
And it was about that time?
And it was at that time, that particular year. So that would explain the light that Billy Ray saw. And like I said before, UFOs were kind of the cool craze. So you can understand why he decided it had to be a UFO. The only other thing is that weird green glow by the fence. Mm-hmm. It wasn't there the next day, and there was no sign of anything there, and it's believed that was foxfire, which is a naturally occurring, it's a fungus that's bioluminescent. And so they think that maybe it was just foxfire that somebody saw, because foxfire grows on rotting wood.
Sure, but why would it not have been there the next night?
Somebody may not have seen it. You got to think about it. It's not as if it's a beacon of light. It's kind of dimly glowing.
Sure.
So if you stick your head next to it, you're like, oh, look, that's glowing. And then 10, 15, 20 feet away, you don't really notice it.
Sure.
That's a guess on my part. I will completely admit, because there's no description of what was at the site of where that foxfire, supposed foxfire was.
I sort of got the impression it was on a stick or something like that, or a branch.
Well, it's on rotting wood, so it had to be. But from there, I don't know the size or quantity or anything like that. So I guess that means it's time to go to theories.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to start with the most popular theory, which is owls.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, I think it's a good one.
Fairly reasonable.
Who?
Exactly.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't help it. Okay, the theory goes that Billy Ray worked up about reading about the flying saucers, as we were saying, saw a meteor and convinced himself and then everybody else that it's a UFO. And this is on his trek to get water from the well. On his way there, he encounters the nest of a mated pair of great horned owls. They are either already upset and worked up, or he does something that peeves them off, and their natural reaction is to defend their nest. So they do that, just as owls are known to do. They fly in and they try and attack, because at that time of year they would have owlets in the nest. So there would have been young. Those young would have been about 9 to 10 months old. They're nearly full grown at that point and probably about ready to leave the nest. But parents can be very defensive. I mean, we've also heard about how hard it is to live with teenagers, so you can imagine why these owls were so on edge.
Yeah.
Man,
Just get them out of here.
maybe that's what they're doing. They're coming out to ask these people to come over and kill their young.
Please help us.
Look at them.
Can't take it. So these owls, they follow Billy Ray. According to this theory, they followed Billy Ray back to the house. At one point, one of them landed on the ground and began to walk towards the house. And in bad light, I can kind of understand this. Have you ever seen a bird that's shaped like an owl? You know, with the short legs and the kind of tall, stocky body walk. They walk weird. It's kind of a weird, stilted movement, and they'll hold their wings out a little bit.
Yeah, they're not really built for walking.
No, they're actually rather terrible at it. But being owls, they're also exceptionally quiet when they fly. They make no noise. Did you guys see that article that was out? Oh, this was probably about a month ago, about the sound of birds when they fly.
No, I don't think so.
And so, well, what they did is they had, I think it was 3 or 5 microphones. And so they would have like a falcon fly by, and you could hear it beating its wings, and it would pick it up, and it would register these decibels. And all these birds were making this noise. And then when they let an owl loose, almost nothing.
Yeah.
They're so quiet. They're so streamlined. Their feathers are soft. They glide a lot, so they don't make a bunch of noise. So you could see how an owl could glide in and land, and nobody would know it.
Mm-hmm. I see that, yeah.
And so, of course, at this point, the owls are upset, and they come walking up to the door, and they're sticking their heads in the windows, looking at the people. And great horned owls, okay, I see the look on Devin's face. She's suddenly not so excited by this theory. But great horned owls do kind of match the description. They have little pointy ears, the feathers. They're about 3 foot or so high.
No.
Great horned owls?
No.
Foot and a half, 2 feet.
Foot and a half, most.
Great horned owls?
Yes. I was literally just looking at it.
Okay, because I swear I was reading that they were that size. But you know what? It might not have been region specific. That's where I got tripped up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But, you know, I mean, they're owls. They're weird looking. Have you ever seen an owl? You know how they turn their head? They basically have no neck. It's just a giant swivel. And some of them have kind of this whitish line of feathers right there. So that could account for that thin, long mouth that was described.
I guess Sorry, I'm going to let you finish and then I'll to say my big problem with it.
Oh, no, say your big problem, because I'm about to jump into the problems with the whole owl theory.
Yeah, I mean, one of my big problems with it is that specifically great horned owls, but like most owls, really most animals in this world, when they are trying to be defensive or scare things away, they make themselves look bigger. And I know you guys have both probably seen these videos of great horned owls. They're just sitting there, they're cool, they've got their little like ears up, they're, you know, long, and then as soon as they're threatened, they just like hunch down and like fan out.
They puff.
They puff to make themselves look larger because they're intimidated and they're trying to be intimidating back.
That's what I do
So
when I'm
if
in a bad
they're
neighborhood.
me too, yeah, I just pull myself out.
Yeah, and I do this with my cheeks. I go,
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I just want to look as fat as possible. But I mean, if this theory is that, you know, the owls were threatened, so they were coming up, they're not going to be this like slim, what you would see in the distance on a bird photography. It's going to be this like huge
Puffed out, wings out.
and it's not going to look anything like the description.
No.
That's my big theory with it. Also, the size thing is a problem.
the size is a problem. The other thing is, if they had youngins that were, you know, getting old enough to nearly leave the nest, and that obviously their nest was nearby for a long time,
And they would have been more used to it.
and people were walking back and forth, and they never had a problem with it before. Why suddenly that night?
Well, and that's the thing is that I have the same question. I don't know how long Glennie Langford lived there, but if there was a nest, they had to be aware of it. It can't be as if the owls just showed up, because they reused the nest year after year, so everybody should have known that they were there. My other problem with this is, what do most animals do when you fire a gun?
They go away. They're not going to keep coming back.
They take off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only the most
Aggressive.
yeah, most aggressive and motivated, because like there's young right there who are in danger kind of animal. An animal will then really stick around regardless of that noise, because they're trying to intimidate you back. But you fire a gun, the birds are going to go away.
You would think so.
Especially something like a bear. I mean, you fire a gun at a bear and you're between, a mama and her cubs. She's probably going to keep coming at you.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's a bird and you're not you're not in between them anymore. You've retreated to a space. They're probably going to be like, you know what? Never mind. This is dumb. I don't want to do it anymore.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's enough about owls. Let's talk about the next theory, which is prankster aliens.
Yeah.
Is this an actual theory people have, or is this your own?
This is my own. I'm making this
Okay.
up. I mean, unless these people had some amazing white lightning in their barn, like this whole thing doesn't work for me to be true aliens, because here's my problem with, okay, so the aliens are bored and they're going to have a high old time at these people's expense. But you know what has never happened?
What?
The description of these aliens has never been made anywhere else. So you would think that if they had come down and these little 3 or 4 foot tall, funny-eared guys had wandered around, I haven't seen a description that matches this.
No other aliens reported?
Oh, well, with the claw hands and the big yellow eyes and the thin mouth, like that description, you typically hear about the grays and the greens, and then some other weird humanoids. But these guys, I don't, other than in cartoons, I mean, the aliens in this described really make me think of, remember that cartoon Lilo and Stitch? The little character Stitch is who they make me think of, like almost as if they were an inspiration for it. But that kind of alien is, I've never really seen that description before, and I haven't seen it since.
True. Fair
Which
enough.
you would think that if it was, something that was going to happen, it would happen more often than once.
You'd
I
think.
thought I had seen somewhere a different drawing that was like very similar to this description. I'm just trying to find it. It's not going to happen.
No.
But I thought there was one, but maybe I'm making it up. I think I'm
Maybe.
probably making it
You're
up.
You might be.
I think I am hallucinating.
You probably
You
are.
smoking pot?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Okay, well, let's move on to the third theory in the loop, which this one is, again, this is a speculation on my part. This is that they were all on drugs.
Yeah.
Because I say that if they're intoxicated in some way to come up with this whole weirdo scenario, it can't be booze, because the police said that they didn't smell, nothing indicates that they smelled alcohol or they seemed super drunk, which to me means that they must have been tripping in some way, shape, or form. There are accounts that say that some beer cans were seen in a trash can or a empty booze bottle was seen, but that is not proof that they had been consumed that night. Mm-hmm. Those things could have been there for a while. I have beer cans in my garbage can for a week at a time.
Yeah, me too.
So it's hard to say. And in the 50s, there was marijuana was popular, amphetamines were getting popular. The other one that would have been getting popular at that time was heroin. But in rural Kentucky, I wouldn't imagine that the last two would have been all that used, unless we say, okay, well, we've got a couple of folks who were carnival workers, who were traveling carnival workers, then they could have gone to bigger metro areas and maybe been exposed and picked it up and then brought it back, and then everybody just had one raging party that somebody had a bad trip and it got out of hand, or they all just kind of as a group went crazy.
Well, this could be an MK Ultra experiment. It's about the right time.
That's a good point.
I mean, it is the right time. It could be an LSD trip gone horribly wrong.
I guess it's such a weird place to have done that.
Why?
Splendid isolation. These people are out in the sticks.
True, and there was a military base close by. So.
And the military police came to investigate, and the army came to investigate afterwards.
Okay.
Why would they do that if they were like, well, it's just owls, obviously?
Yeah, well, maybe. The owl theory is actually relatively new.
MK Ultra. I think that's my new theory. Is MK Ultra.
I like that
okay.
one.
All right. Good. I'm happy. Glad you got that.
Well, yeah. There's also a variant on they were high on drugs, and that is our favorite go-to theory, which is ergot or ergo.
They got some bad bread.
Well, that's the one thing, because if they're doing some sort of drugs, then assuming it was not MK Ultra, then I would doubt that the adults would be giving the drugs to the kids. And the kids actually saw these things too, as well as everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so, but then again,
they were hidden under it.
If they're preteens, then they're very, very easy to influence.
Yeah, and if they were hidden under a bed the entire time, they probably didn't see them. They just were like, yeah, the adults said this was a thing, so...
But I'm still liking the whole bread mold theory. They were just high.
On accident.
Yeah, by accident.
Yeah. I guess it's possible, somebody used the wrong kind of mushrooms or something.
That's a possibility.
That's a possibility as well. I mean, anything could be. If we move from there, we have the theory that a lot of skeptics put out, which is that the whole thing is a friggin' hoax. And again, I don't mean to knock on the folks who worked for the carnival, but they're the ones who were pointed at a lot for the theory, because they would be the ones who would, they'd be used to pulling one over on the marks. So they could have just been doing this whole thing for the lulz. Just, hey, this is going to be really funny, and let's screw with these people.
Please never use that term ever again.
The lulz?
Yeah, please don't.
But I lulz all the time.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm very upset right now.
That's okay. I'm used to it. So it could be that they were just doing the whole thing as a prank, and maybe...
It got a little out of hand?
And it got away from them, or maybe the whole thing was just, let's go ahead and screw with the sheriff's department, except then the sheriff's department really believes it. I mean, I don't know.
Do you know which one had which gun? They're actually both of the dudes who had guns.
Billy Ray and Lucky.
They were both carnies, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Never
were
mind.
both the ones who worked on that.
I was gonna say maybe it's Billy Ray says hey Lucky, come look at this, ha ha ha, better grab our guns, and then Lucky starts shooting and he goes, oh no, oh crap. But if they were both they would have been in on it.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I never understand why people pull hoaxes, if it is indeed a hoax. I don't get it, so I can't really rationalize what would have motivated them to do it.
It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank.
Other than the attention, I guess?
Well, they didn't go to the authorities with the tale of a massive gun battle, right?
Correct.
Only a few shots were fired, and so maybe what happened is they had a little gun accident. They shot a hole in their landlord's screen, and they wanted to
in a rental,
and they wanted to come up with a good excuse. So it's like, we were under attack by aliens, and so I had to shoot through your screen. Please don't make me pay to replace it.
Have you ever seen the hole that a .22 caliber bullet makes?
I'm sure Joe has seen that.
It's teeny tiny small.
It is.
I don't think that I would ever say anything to the landlord in hopes that they would never notice it.
Good chance they wouldn't notice it. Yeah.
So
It does seem like a lot of trouble to go to just to cover up one little boo-boo.
Well, yeah, and that's the only other thing that had come up with was as a justification was, maybe they were doing something illicit that they shouldn't have been doing, like let's say they were poaching. And they realize that there's a neighbor who's going to squeal on them. And so they come up with this entire kooky story to explain the gunshots while they were wandering around in the dark poaching deer or something.
But, why would you go poaching in the middle of the night like that, though?
You're serious?
Yeah.
That's the time to do it.
The animals are asleep. You shine a flashlight. You've seen deer in the headlights. They freeze.
I just don't
You shine a light and you shoot them.
I think that's
easy.
silly. I think it's silly.
It's easy hunting is what it is.
Silly.
That's why people do it.
Silly.
It's such easy hunting. It's actually easy hunting the other way around, too. Because have you heard about those places where the game wardens put a fake deer up on the side of the road, and then people jump out of their car and shoot it?
Yep. And get the whole thing recorded on camera?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's quite
get
beautiful.
arrested,
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. But, that's the end of our theories. There's not a whole lot here because while the whole group has maintained what they saw, what they say they saw, they've never changed their stories. There has, like I said, there's been the additions over time. Like, there was an addition that a couple of the people the next morning just up and packed up and left. They all just left the place. Screw it, we're out of here. There's aliens. Which is not actually true because they were around.
Aliens can follow you anyway.
Yeah, they got better
technology.
transportation. Yeah. But the fact that these people were all at the house and they were getting their photographs taken by the news. Obviously they were still there. They hung around. So there's
was
a lot
there
of
carnival in
additions.
town?
Not that I know of.
Oh, never mind.
Were you gonna say it was the Ferris wheel?
I was gonna say it was like publicity.
Oh, for
the carnival they worked for.
For the Barker,
Yeah,
whatever. Got it.
Yeah. Well, I like that.
Yeah. You guys got any other?
I think it was MK Ultra.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that too. MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's all for the lols.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, if you want to read about this story, we will, of course, have links to it on our website. The website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com.